Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Pagani. I'm the chair of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission, and I would like to welcome you to this month's hearing. Today's date is June 10th, 2026, and the time is 5:00 p.m. I would like to invite my fellow commission members to introduce themselves to you, beginning on my right, please. Mr. Deason.
Sonny Deason.
Wayne Yarborough.
David Diab.
Cooper Shattuck.
Carl Elabash.
David Nelson.
Thank you. And joining us from city staff this evening, we have Mr. Hudson Cheshire, the Associate City Attorney, Mr. Zach Pons, the Director of Planning, and Ms. Cynthia DeSantiago, Planner. Before we proceed with hearing our cases this evening, I'd like to go over the purpose of the Historic Preservation Commission and the procedures for this evening's hearing. The general purpose of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission is that we serve to preserve and protect the buildings, sites, and structures of historic significance and interest in Tuscaloosa's historic neighborhoods. We are governed by Chapter 20, Article 2 of the Code of Tuscaloosa, which includes design guidelines that are posted on the city's website. Our decisions are based on these design guidelines and do not consider use or occupancy. We do consider such factors as architectural style, appropriateness of materials, and how the structure relates to other structures in the immediate neighborhood in determining the appropriateness of the application. An approval of an application requires 5 affirmative votes. If the certificate is approved, please be aware that there will be a final inspection by city staff of approved applications to ensure compliance with what was approved by the commission this evening. This is a public hearing. It is televised live on local cable, streamed online through Facebook, and is being recorded to be posted on the city's website. We ask proper decorum, civility, and respect for others at all times. Prior to this meeting, notice was sent to adjacent property owners, and the public has been notified of the applications to be presented tonight. This hearing is a chance for the applicant to present their case, for the public to make their views known about the project, and for the commission members to gather relevant facts about the application before making its decision. City staff will introduce the application. The applicant will then have a chance to make any comments. The commissioners will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant questions about the case. I will then open the hearing to public comment. At the close of public comment, the commission will then discuss the matter and vote on the application. A notarized designation of agent form should have been provided to the city staff for any representatives of an application that are not the property owner or immediate family member of the owner prior to tonight's hearing. Immediate family members are defined as a spouse, parent, or child, and they do not have to provide written authorization when speaking on behalf of another immediate family member. We ask that you leave the signs in your yard. City staff will be around in the next couple of days to pick them up. All right, commission members, as the commission has received synopses of the March 2026, April 2026, and May 2026 meetings, I move that we dispense with the reading of these synopses unless there are any deletions, additions, or concerns. Any changes to the synopses? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of these synopses?
I make a motion.
Great. Do I have a second, please? Second. All right, let's vote on this, please. Let's begin on my right, please, Ms. Stone.
Yes.
Mr. Deason.
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Diab?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Elabash?
Yes.
And Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve said synopses? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please? Thank you very much. And we shall vote. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Elabash?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Diab?
Yes.
I vote yes. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
And Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, as we move along, the commission members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest as defined by Section 6 of the commission bylaws with any of these items?
Yes.
And which cases or case?
I'm going to do cases, but I'm not going to do the number. I'm going to do the address because I have no idea what the number is. It's the 215 17th Avenue, or 205 17th Avenue, and 2009 9th Street.
All right, so that's HPC 2726 and HPC, what was the other one now?
Oh, thank you, I didn't see my agenda.
29, I believe.
26, 29, 26.
2926.
And 27, 26.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a conflict on 27, 26.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much. Let me ask city staff, has proper notification been provided for each of the agenda items?
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. And let's move on to our first application, please.
So our first case tonight is requesting to continue. This is HPC 3026. Shane Crawford petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of a roof on the primary structure on the property located at 1817 3rd Street in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4.
So my understanding is the applicant has approved continuing this case. Do I have a motion from a commission member to approve continuing this case?
Make a motion.
And do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. And let's vote, beginning on my right, please. Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
I vote yes. Ms. Diab?
Yes.
Ms. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Alabash?
Yes.
And Dr.
Yes.
Nelson? Thank you very much. All right, let's move on.
Moving on to unfinished business, these are cases that were continued from last month. Our first one is HPC 2126, where Brandon Shirley petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the rear porch on the property located at 1419 Deering Place in the Deering Place Historic District, Council District 4. Here we have where that property is located in its historic district, right on that curve of Deering Place next to Annette Shelby Park, and an aerial view of that property. Here's a view of that property from the street. The adjacent property to the west, to the east, and to the north. So this is coming to you tonight as a violation case. On April 10th, 2026, the city put a stop work order for the construction of a deck without HPC approval, but prior to the stop work order, the petitioner replaced the existing deck, he altered the orientation of the steps, and constructed most of a roof extension over a portion of the deck area. The deck sits at the rear of the primary structure, and it's not visible from the public right-of-way. So tonight, you're considering the approval for alterations to the existing deck. So the total size of the deck will be 34 by 12 feet, not including the stairs, and will be constructed of wood. The deck extends an additional 4 feet to accommodate a new landing that's 4 by 4, and then 9 sets of steps leading down to the rear yard. It's supported by 6 by 6 wood columns, and then there will be a roofed area of the deck, which will measure 20 by 12 and have a gable roof that reaches a height of 12.5 feet at its highest point. And this roof will be finished with asphalt shingles. The trim of the new roof section will be made of wood to match the existing trim of the primary structure, and it'll be enclosed with a black polyester screen mesh and then a wood screen door. The petitioner also proposes painting the exterior of the primary structure and staining the existing wood shutters to a darker shade. The exterior of the house is brick, and it was previously painted before. So here's an image of the rear deck before any work had been done. And here's an image of the deck when the stop order was placed back in April, so a majority of this work had already been done. Here you can see the roof and then the changed orientation of the steps. And here's a photo from last month with staff went out to take pictures. The roof portion is covered, but you can still see some of the deck. Here's some drawings with dimensions of the new roof addition and that landing on the side. It'll be 6 feet tall. Here's some dimensions of that enclosed portion of the deck that'll be screened in, 12 by 20, along that 34-foot deck. Here's a rendering of what that'll look like. So the portion that they're building the roof over on the deck, that portion will be enclosed. Here's another perspective, again showing the change in orientation of the steps. And another perspective of the enclosed area. On the left, you'll see the before, and on the right is the after. And then here's the exterior of the primary structure. On the left, you'll see the existing, and proposed is right. Both the shutters and the exterior are a bit darker, which is what's proposed. Here is that proposed color for the exterior, and then below that is the wood stain that'll be darker on those wooden shutters. Here's some more specs on the wood that'll be used for the deck, the screen mesh for the enclosed portion, the wooden door for that enclosed portion, more wood plank, the stain for the deck, and then the asphalt shingles that'll be used. Materials for this project include wood, asphalt shingles, polyester screen mesh, and a wood screen door. Here are the design guidelines for rehabilitation and alteration, that the design character should respect the original design and character of the structure, and that it should relate in style, size, scale, and material to what's existing. The design guidelines for decks, they should be built on the building's rear elevation and not visible from the street. For the design guidelines for roofs, preserving the character of the original roofing material and details, and then below that you'll see that the asphalt shingles are an appropriate material for roofs in historic districts. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
Any questions for staff? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up, please. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here? Yes, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Brendan Shirley. I'm representing 1419 Daring Place.
Thank you very much. So is there anything you'd like to tell the commission about the project?
The project was previously started by a previous contractor who was unlicensed. I'm picking it up to further license to do it as appropriately as possible. But as far as that, everything, I just need to be able to get everything done so I can get a roof closed, because right now, other than a tarp, that's the only thing protecting the house to
Right.
keep it from leaking.
Understood. And you're here, there was a stop work order put on the project.
Ma'am.
There was a stop work order put on the project. Do you know why the owner didn't come to the Historic Preservation Commission to get work approved ahead of time?
As far as the homeowner has expressed to me, is she didn't know that she needed a permit. The original contractor that was there was supposed to do the appropriate measures so that I'm not picking up the slack. But they dropped the ball on doing what they were supposed to do to get everything approved before starting work, which is where we're at now. So unfortunately, I'm here to make it right.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions for Ms. Shirley? Well, thank you very much. We have no questions for you.
Thank you.
There were no public comments submitted. Is anyone here present to speak in support of or opposition to this application? Then let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. The materials are appropriate. As far as my reading of this and going through the materials, we have appropriate materials. Scale is fine. It's not viewed from the right of way. Does anyone have any concerns about this?
I'd move that we approve it.
So we have a standing motion to approve HPC 2126, Brandon Shirley petitions for certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the rear porch on the property located at 1419 Deering Place in the Deering Place Historic District, Council District 4, and we shall vote. Let's start on my left, please. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Alabash?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Diab?
Yes.
I vote yes. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
And Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Shirley, your application has been approved this evening. Should anything change, please see city staff before you move forward. There will be a final inspection, and we wish you best of luck with the project. You're welcome.
Our next case was also continued from last month, HPC 2226. Elizabeth Alway petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an addition to an existing detached garage on the primary structure on the property located at 11 Buena Vista in the Buena Vista Historic District, Council District 5. So here we have where that property is situated in its historic district. It's one of the corner lots in Buena Vista. Here is an aerial view of the property. Here's a view of that property from the street, the adjacent property to the south, to the north, and to the east. So the petitioner proposes constructing a 14.5 by 22 addition to an existing detached garage. This existing detached garage is 20 by 22 feet, and it was built using cementitious siding, 2 wooden windows, a fiberglass door, asphalt shingles, and wooden shutters. And the proposed garage addition will be built using wood framing, windows, door, and shutters. And the proposed wooden windows will match the existing 6/6 light pattern that are currently on the garage. The roof will be finished with asphalt shingles, and then the addition will also feature a metal garage door and cementitious siding. The shutters, siding, shingles, and door materials will match what's existing on the garage. To accommodate this addition, the petitioner also proposes extending the existing concrete driveway. The driveway section will be concrete to match the existing driveway material. Additionally, the petitioner proposes to construct a new brick terrace to the north of the garage addition and the driveway. On this terrace, the petitioner plans to build an approximately 9-foot by 19-foot wooden trellis supported by 5.5 by 5.5 painted wooden columns. The addition will be approximately 53 feet from the side property line and 82 feet from the rear property line. And here we see those setbacks on the site plan. In the blue, you'll see the outline for the garage addition. Here's a floor plan showing the detached garage. It's connected to the primary structure through a breezeway, but it's detached. And then to the side of that, in blue, you'll see the garage addition with dimensions and the square footage. Here's the existing on the left and proposed on the right. Again, they're expanding that concrete drive to accommodate for the addition and adding that brick terrace with the wooden trellis. And here's the east elevation, what you see when you are going into the property. You can see the front of the garage connected to the breezeway. And the proposed elevation, on the right, you'll see the addition to the garage with those asphalt shingles, the fiber cement siding, and the garage door. And these are those two elevations side by side, existing on your left and proposed on the right. And I'll stay on these for a second. Here is the north elevation, the side of that detached garage, the existing elevation drawings, and then the proposed. You can see the door, and on the side, the trellis is on that brick patio with a new window and wood shutters to match existing. And again, side by side, existing and proposed elevations. Here's the west elevation, so the rear of that detached garage, in a drawing. Here's the proposed elevation, just showing that garage addition with the adjacent trellis, and compared side by side, existing on your right and proposed on your, existing on your left and proposed on your right. And here's a picture. What you'll see is the south elevation is where the breezeway actually connects to the garage. So that's the elevation that we're gonna look at, where that door is. And here's the proposed elevation. The trellis is beyond, and then side by side. Here are the spec sheets for those aluminum clad wood windows. For the exterior door and the fiber cement siding. And here are some spec sheets for those asphalt shingles. And for the metal garage door that will be placed on the addition. And a drawing of what that door will look like. Materials for this project include a wooden door, wooden windows, wooden shutters, asphalt shingles, a metal garage door, cementitious siding, concrete, and brick. Here are the design guidelines for rehabilitation and alteration. For additions, that they preserve and respect the architectural integrity of the individual building, and that they are away from principal public view, ideally to the rear or side of the building, and that they respect the proportions of what's existing. And here are the design guidelines for accessory structures, that they should complement the main structure, and that they should be at least 5 feet away from the side property lines. Here are the design guidelines for roofs, and asphalt shingles are an appropriate material. And then again for windows, where wood sash windows and aluminum clad wood windows are appropriate. And here again is for landscape and plant materials. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
Couple of quick questions. So with the windows, are they wood or are they aluminum clad wood?
The proposed windows are aluminum clad, and then the applicant can confirm, but the existing, what staff knows, is wooden windows.
Okay, I just thought I'd heard that they were matching with wood in the narrative part, and then when I saw the spec sheet, it said aluminum clad wood. The other question is, whoever is in control of the PowerPoint, can you show us the drawing of the garage doors, and then let's go back to the garage door spec sheet for a quick second. And then can you show us the elevation? There's just one little thing I thought I saw. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to step up to the podium, please. And we will need your name and address as well, please.
Evans Fitz. I'm with Fitz Architects at 817 Allman Avenue. I'm representing Ms. Alloway tonight. She is out of town. Otherwise, she would be here. That was a very good explanation. A lot of information, a lot of detail.
Yeah, so the question I had was about the windows. I was under the impression for a while that they were wooden windows, and then the spec sheet said aluminum clad wood, and then.
I guess I waffled back and forth whether to introduce aluminum clad. I thought I actually had just wood windows, but I'm thinking we can go either way. I would assume that the windows on the existing house are probably a wood, or not clad.
You could just let us know what it is you intend or that you wanted to do with the application, because I got a sense through part of that presentation, we're saying wood trim, everything else, and then we got the aluminum clad wood, and I'm a little confused.
Right. I think he could clarify which one he wants to use. It looks like we've got aluminum clad wood as the spec sheet, so.
Right, that's what I saw,
Right.
But prior to that, we were talking about wood windows.
The aluminum clad is acceptable, though.
It is acceptable, yes, it is.
Okay.
It isn't, I'll put it this way, it's an approved material. So if we can go back to let's go back to elevation, and, so there's wood window. Can we flip through and just see what the other windows are?
When does that one exist?
It's just that one window?
Yeah, there's just
Yep.
that.
Yep, we have the one
window.
existing window, and then the one additional window, correct? Yeah. And And so the existing window is wood.
Yeah,
And then the proposed window will be,
wood. Let's make it wood.
oh, okay, wood. All right, thank you.
I guess I don't quite, we're matching the existing materials exactly, I think, so.
Okay.
And that's the general intent.
That's great, thank you.
That's really, I'm open for questions.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Fitz?
The material that's going to be used, the cemented siding, does it match the current pattern on the on the
It's-
original house?
It's the same wavy pattern. I think that's probably asbestos, but they make a cement board
You can't make it a
in the wavy pattern. What? But
It's also on the garage now. It's on the house and
yes,
the garage?
it is. I'm showing a straight line there, but it is
Okay.
the wavy pattern. I can't spell pattern.
So we'll have essentially identical appearance
Yes.
with the new materials, yeah.
And it's painted, so it really will be.
Any other questions for Mr. Fitz? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. There were no submitted comments. Is there anyone here to speak in support of the application or in opposition to it? Then let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor up to discussion by commission members. Hearing no discussion, we have a standing motion to approve HPC 2226, Elizabeth Alloway petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an addition to an existing detached garage on the primary structure on the property located at 11 Buena Vista in the Buena Vista Historic District, Council District 5. Let me just add the note that we are specifying wood windows. And we shall vote. Let's see, beginning on my right, Ms. Stone.
Yes.
Mr. Deason.
Yes.
Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Diab.
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck.
Yes.
Mr. Elebash.
Yes.
And Dr. Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Fitz, let your client know that your application has been approved this evening, and should anything change, please see city staff before you proceed. Good luck with your project. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to cases to be heard for this month. First, we have HPC 2526. Brad Allman petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a single-family dwelling on the property located at 2507 Glendale Gardens in the Glendale Gardens Historic District, Council District 2. So here's where it's situated in its historic district at the end of the cul-de-sac on Glendale Gardens. And you can see that from its aerial. Right now, it's a vacant lot. As you can see, a view of that property from the street. The adjacent property to the north, and then to the west. So the proposal includes constructing a 2,215 square foot, two-story single-family dwelling with a new driveway to replace a home that was previously destroyed in 2011. The home will be 28.5 feet tall at its highest point, and it'll be set back 50 feet from the front property line. The proposed home will be constructed using hardy plank batten vertical siding, aluminum clad wood casement windows, a brick foundation, fiberglass asphalt shingles, a metal garage doors, composite outdoor lighting, and wooden windows. And then the light pattern for these windows will primarily be a 2/2 light pattern. The home's exterior columns will be 8 feet by 8 feet, and then both the front and rear porch foundations will be made of brick, and the proposed driveway will be concrete. So here we have a view of what that lot currently looks like. Here's a survey of that lot showing the proposed house and that 50-foot front setback. Here we have a site plan. And here's the adjacent property to the north, so 2501 Glendale Gardens. It's 35 feet tall and it's set back about 70 feet from the front property line. Here's some elevations for the proposed house. As you can see, top of plate, 28.5 feet tall, with those architectural shingles, hardy plank siding, aluminum clad wood windows, and then a brick foundation and wooden doors and columns. The back elevation. Right elevation showing that metal garage door. And left elevation. Here are the spec sheets for where the garage door, which will be steel. The spec sheets for the siding, it's hardy plank. Spec sheets for the windows, and they'll be aluminum clad wood. Here's a spec sheet for the door, which will be wooden. And then for those outdoor lightings, these are a composite material. And then spec sheets for the architectural asphalt shingles. So the materials for this project include hardy plank siding, aluminum clad wood windows, brick, fiberglass asphalt shingles, metal garage door, composite outdoor lighting, wooden doors, and concrete. Here are the design guidelines for new construction, that they should reference and not conflict with the predominant site and architectural elements of the existing properties, and that they should respect the established design patterns within the area. That the setback, the scale, mass, and size of a structure should be important, like the style or decorative details, and that the public facades are also compatible with those of the adjacent contributing buildings. Here are the design guidelines for foundation, which brick is an appropriate material. For roofs, which asphalt shingles are an appropriate material. For windows, aluminum clad wood is an appropriate material. For trim and ornament. For entrances and doorways, which wood panel and wood panel with glass lights are both appropriate materials. For porches and railings, that they should blend in with the style of the structure or other structures in the district. For sidewalks, drives, parking, and paving, they should not exceed 35% of the total rear yard area, and that all parking areas visible from the public street, you should minimize the appearance and presence. And then the appropriate materials, which concrete is an appropriate material. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
Quick question about setbacks. So you mentioned the setback of this property at 50 feet and the one adjacent property at 70 feet.
That's correct.
What's the overall setback in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about the rest of the neighborhood, but the one just to the north is 70 feet setback. And then you can see, as it's a cul-de-sac, you kind of push in a little bit, so it might align a little bit better than what it's showing on paper.
Yeah, we're looking at an overview of that,
Okay.
that street with the cul-de-sac, and I think the 50 feet, even though the others look pretty even at 70 feet, I think just given the nature of that cul-de-sac, just what you were saying, Mr. Pons, that it doesn't look out of place. I don't think it will with that cul-de-sac.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions for staff? All right, thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant to step forward, please. And if you could state your name and your address for the record, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Chris Centel, Centel Engineering, Centel Home Design. Staff did a great job presenting the case. I would like to answer the question. The house is in complete alignment with the houses down the street. It just looks closer. But we took the aerial and lined it up.
That's right. Well, that's what we were doing here, and we could see that. So thank you for clarifying that.
I'd be glad to answer any other questions if you got them.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Centel? It was very clear. Application was very, very clear. It appears we have no questions at this time. Thank you. We've had no public comments submitted. Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application or to speak in opposition to it? Then let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. Hearing no discussion. We have a standing motion to approve HPC 2526. Brad Allman petitions for certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a single-family dwelling on the property located at 2507 Glendale Gardens in the Glendale Gardens Historic District, Council District 2. And we shall vote. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Elebash?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
I vote yes. Oh, sorry, Mr. Diab?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
And Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Right. Mr. Sintel, let the property owner know that the application has been approved this evening. Should anything change, though, let city staff know before you move forward, because there will be a final inspection. Good luck with the project.
Okay, next we have HPC 2626. Edward Prunty petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a gazebo in the rear yard of the property located at 4 Hillcrest in the Hillcrest Historic District, Council District 2. Here we have an image of where that property is located in its historic district, facing Hargrove Road, as you can see from its aerial. Here's the subject property, a view from the street, the adjacent property to the west, to the east. So the petitioner proposes installing a 12-foot by 16-foot pre-manufactured gazebo in the rear yard of the primary structure. He plans to put it on an existing 12 by 16-foot rear patio, and it'll be located 27 feet from the side property line and 175 feet from the rear property line. It won't be visible from the right-of-way, and it'll be made using an aluminum frame with a steel hardtop roof with polyester privacy curtains. So here are the dimensions, as you can see, of the gazebo, some renderings, and some of the materials that it's made with. And here's a site plan showing that it'll be 27 feet from the side property line. And circled is where that existing patio, where the petitioner proposes placing the gazebo. Some photos of the existing patio. Here's a spec sheet of that pre-manufactured gazebo. Materials include a metal gazebo. Here are the design guidelines for accessory structures, really that they be set back at least 5 feet from the side property lines and be located to the rear of the main building. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
It appears we have none. Thank you. Let me invite the applicant to step forward, or the applicant's representative. And please state your name and your address.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Prunty, and my address is 4 Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the commission members about your project?
Well, it's it's intended to be a permanent structure that is withstanding of Alabama's changing weather.
Can we go ahead and put an image up so we can just look at it as Mr. Prunty talks about it? Here we go.
You know, I've replaced a number of umbrellas at on this patio, and this is it was a Mother's Day gift, but it's a more permanent structure that, as you step away and weather changes, the structure will still be there, and there won't be debris to pick up later.
Right, right. Do we have any questions for Mr. Prunty? It appears we have no questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. We've received no submitted comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of the application or in opposition to it? Then let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission.
Can we go back to the specifications for a pergola? And then it says complement the main structure through similar building materials, siding, windows, and roof. Can we go look at the main structure? I'm not going to worry about windows because there's no windows. My only concern is, does this match the materials and complement the existing structure?
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's a contrast to me between a shingled roof and a metal roof being perhaps too different of materials to complement each other.
I look at it as a pergola, where it's a different sort of structure. I don't, personally, in looking at the design guidelines and the application, I don't have an issue with that. It's a little more unusual than the typical pergolas that we see, but it's not completely unusual.
And it's in the back. You
And
know,
it's in the
some
back.
pergolas we've seen have been in the front.
Correct.
And I think that would obviously weigh more heavily to matching.
Can you show the photo of the existing patio that's there again, please? So does that pergola fit on this floor, or is that floor that's in the image submitted? Is this coming up and a wooden type floor going, or is it over this?
Shall we ask the applicant to come back? Mr. Prunty, could you come back up for a moment? Dr. Nelson has a question about
Certainly.
the size of the floor.
So this is coming up, the brick pavers?
No, it's actually going to, the pavers are the same size as the pergola. So as I construct it and set it up, I anticipate on the corners, I may have to lift a couple of existing blocks in order to set it in concrete so it becomes a permanent structure, wind resistant.
So it is it's the same
But
footprint.
but it's going to be, it will fit inside. If the grassy shrubs were removed, it would fit on or just outside the existing patio, give or take an inch.
So the pergola itself has the flooring that was shown in the photograph, that wooden?
Right, I think that was just part of the image as he submitted it as part of like the stock image that was,
Can we see it again?
From the manufacturer.
right, from the manufacturer.
Okay. So it's not that raised wood deck.
Right, they intend to keep the patio as it is and put this over that.
That's what my question was.
Yes, sir.
The photograph just led me to think that.
Any other questions for Mr. Prunty? Well, thank you again. Should there be any other questions, we'll bring you back. Did you have anything you
Thank
want
you.
to add? Okay, thank
No,
you.
I mean, are you satisfied with the answers that you received? or-
I believe we are. We are.
Thank
Yes, thank you. Any other questions or comments, discussion points? Hearing none, we have a standing motion to approve HPC 2626, Edward Prunty petitions for certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a gazebo in the rear yard of the property located at 4 Hillcrest in the Hillcrest Historic District, Council District 2. We'll begin our vote. Dr. Nelson, please.
Yes.
Mr. Alabash?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Diab?
No.
I vote yes. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
And Ms. Stone?
No.
All right, thank you very much. So we do have 5 affirmative votes. So, Mr. Prunty, your application has been approved tonight. Should anything change, see city staff before you move forward. There will be a final inspection, and good luck. Thank you. And let the record show that Ms. Stone and Mr. Deason are recusing themselves from this portion of the hearing. We'll just give them a moment to exit the room.
Okay, our next case is HPC 2726, Casey Branton, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a parking pad on the property located at 215 17th Avenue in the Pinehurst Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have where that property is located within its historic district in the intersections between 3rd Street and 17th Street, as you can see on its aerial. Here's a view of that property from the street and the adjacent property to the south. So the petitioner proposes adding a concrete pad in the rear yard of the primary structure. Currently, there's an existing 35-foot by 16-foot covered concrete parking space in the rear of the primary structure, and the petitioner proposes adding 4 feet to that existing pad. At the end of that pad, that'll measure approximately 4 feet by 16 feet, and the rear parking area will take up 33% of the rear yard. Here we have a survey of that property. In gray, you'll see the proposed parking and existing. The proposed, it's what's below the gray, where it says proposed concrete, and then the gray is what's existing. Yep. And to the side, you'll see a note saying that the total area will be 33%. Here's a picture of what that rear parking looks like. It's a covered parking space, and then beyond that, you can see the patio there. And this is off of an alley. So the materials include concrete for that parking pad. Here are the design guidelines for parking, saying that residential parking area should not exceed 35% of the total rear yard area, and that they should minimize the presence and appearance of all parking areas visible from the public street. Here are the appropriate materials, which concrete is listed as an appropriate material for parking. We received 1 public comment in opposition to this case. Are there any questions for staff?
Can you address the concern in that opposition?
Yes. So as you may have noticed in the packet, on the certificate of appropriateness application, it said that they were proposing parking at the front of the house. We've worked with the applicant, both planning and engineering, to come up with a better solution, and this is our final proposal, what you're considering tonight.
So the opposition was in terms of parking in the front,
Yes,
which is no longer part of the application.
that's correct.
And then one last little thing, we're talking about viewing from public street, public right-of-way. The alley beside the house is not considered a public street or public right-of-way, correct?
Right, it's considered a public right-of-way. However, alleys are typically,
But it's
the
an
purpose
alley.
of it is to put the things that are undesirable back there.
All right, just want to get clarification from
That's
you.
right.
Thank you very much. And can we see the site plan one more time, please? And so that proposed bit of concrete will come right up to that patio area, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I have no further questions for staff. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward, please. And would you mind stating your name and address for the record?
I'm Robert Lukasik. I live at 26 Ridgeland, and I'm friends with the Brattons, and she asked me to come represent her.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like us to know about the application that hasn't been stated already?
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Lukasik? Well, thank you. Should something come up, we may invite you back, but we have no questions right now. Thank you very much. We've had one submitted public comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Please come forward. And If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Kelly Fitz. I live at 19 Audubon Place. And today I come to you as the acting president of the original city association.
Oh,
I know y'all love to hear that.
is it, so acting, how long do you act in this role?
Until we get a new president.
Well, congratulations.
Probably 2 or 3 months.
All right, well, congratulations, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. I don't necessarily have any comments about the actual proposal of this, other than the 35%? Did y'all find out whether this meets that or not? I didn't hear,
It does, 33%.
so they're under that.
So they're under it.
Yes.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. So my comment is basically regarding the information that was sent out to the public on this and how confusing it was.
Right, and I think I spoke with city, I'll just put it out there really quickly, because the application was put together and things were packaged up, and then there was discussion with the applicant. So you're correct, there was some confusion with that front yard parking versus where the parking is now. And, you know, sometimes that happens with these cases where there are some changes done between the submission of the packets or the publication of the packets, and then by the time we get here.
Okay.
So I echo your concern on that
Yes, I know
element
that
of it.
there's a limited amount of time between when somebody submits something and when the final comes through. I understand that there's a
Yeah.
limited amount of time before you actually get the packets, and, you know, should any changes happen between the packet submission to then, I understand that there might be some problems, but I just wanted to make sure that that was the case in this and not just a missed opportunity to
Right,
update the
right.
packet. So I
No,
just
and
want to say
appreciate you
that, yeah,
coming and bringing that up, because that is an important
it is.
point.
And, you know, it sends a lot of people, it gives a lot of people a lot of stress, and it sends us out on tangents, working on things that aren't actually happening.
Right.
And it's a big waste of time
Right,
for all of us. So anyway, that's all I want to say.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak to this application this evening? Then let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. We fall under that 35% mark on this. It's in a way, the rear of the property. It's off an alleyway. Are there any concerns or discussion points? We have a standing motion to approve HPC 2726 Casey Bratton petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a parking pad on the property located at 215 17th Avenue in the Pinehurst Historic District, Council District 4. And we shall vote. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Diab?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Alabash?
Yes.
And Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Lukasik, if you could let the applicant know, the application has been approved this evening. Should anything change, though, please see city staff. There will be a final inspection to make sure everything lines up with what was approved. And thank you for coming tonight. And let's give Mr. Deason and Ms. Stone a chance to return to the hearing.
Okay, so our next case is HPC 2826, Harrison Howell, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of windows on the primary structure on the property located at 1020 and 1022 17th Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have a view of where that property is located in its historic district. This is a duplex located at the end of 17th Avenue. Here's an aerial view of that property. Here's a view of that property from the street. The adjacent property to the east, to the north, and to the south. So the petitioner proposes replacing all 22 windows on the primary structure. The original windows are wood and they're going in with PVC, designed to match the appearance and the light pattern of the windows that they plan to replace. Here are some images of that window. This is the 1020 side of the duplex, and then the 1022 side of the duplex. More windows on that front elevation. And the rear, and the side. Here are the spec sheets for the PVC windows with some shop drawings on the side. Materials for this project are PVC windows. Here are the design guidelines for rehabilitation and alteration. And for windows, which cellular PVC is an appropriate material. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
I do. And maybe the applicant can answer this, but can you tell me the difference between the cellular PVC that's approved and then the vinyl extrusion that's mentioned in the spec sheet?
Yeah, the applicant brought more information about the windows, so we could defer those questions to.
So is it a vinyl window or?
It's cellular PVC from what the spec sheets say, but.
Can we see that spec sheet? Because does it say extruded vinyl on the spec sheet?
It did on the application. On the application, you have that one that was the little monkey or something? Yeah. It says, our white vinyl, yeah, but look at it. This unique vinyl extrusion.
They brought a physical window, if that helps as well, to determine what the material is, but this says cellular PVC.
It also says vinyl.
Well, that one little part says this unique vinyl extrusion, but everywhere else it says it's a Melrose PVC, unlike vinyl windows, Melrose PVC. But we can talk to the applicant about that. We'll keep this handy.
Another thing, just to clarify, obviously in those pictures, you could see some damage to the structure. There was a tree that fell on the structure, and they've gotten some expedited approvals to fix that portion.
Thank you. Other questions for staff? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant to come up, please. And we'll need you to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Matthew Morrison. I live at 1800 Hunters Run, and I'm representing Harrison Howell and Canopy Properties for 1020 and 1022 17th Avenue.
Well, thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Morrison. So we've had a question from one of the commission members, just clarifying the material of the windows, because as you may know, vinyl is not an approved material. Sure. Cellular PVC is. They're both extruded materials, but we need to get a little bit more information from you on the material for the windows.
Absolutely, yeah. It will be the cellular PVC. I brought a window. If you want me to come and grab it and bring it up to you.
I wouldn't mind having you drag it up here to the front.
I drag it all the way up here.
Yeah,
This far, you come on.
You've done all that
Last
work.
few feet, Matthew.
Because, Mr. Morrison, one of the questions I had, and we'll wait till you get back to the podium so you can answer it, was just the nature of the muntins on the windows as well. I want to just confirm a few things with that. Are they heavy? Is it heavy? All right, so as we look at that window, we have external muntins, correct? We can see them here. Do we have, if you can flip it around, let's see the internal muntins all the way around. All right, there we go. And then do we have the internal spacers between the panes of glass? Can you see between the panes of glass? Is there spacers between, or is it? No, just tilt it towards me just a little bit so I can kind of see down
Yeah.
into the, I need to see down into the window.
Angle it.
Yep. I don't see spacers there, but at least we've got the external, internal dividing lights. Thank you for bringing that, by the way.
Sure.
It helps.
absolutely.
Other questions? Ms. Stone, did you have?
Well, I'm just reading this. It says, with all the benefits of cellular PVC construction, but then later says vinyl extrusion. So what is it? Is it PVC construction or is it vinyl?
As far as I understand, it's PVC.
I'm not a materials expert, a window engineer, but I don't know.
Everywhere, it looks like it says PVC everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it says
that
the
one
benefits
spot.
of PVC. But then it says vinyl extrusion.
So I don't pretend to be an expert either, but my understanding is PVC is the type of material, and PVC is a type of vinyl, right? That's the V. And so this vinyl extrusion is a way of manufacturing or shaping PVC. So we don't approve vinyl extrusion of vinyl, but the manufacturing process to create the PVC, it's the material that we're focused on, and it's PVC, is what I understand and what I'm reading. Don't quote me. But that's what I understand.
Well, and a while back, I did a deep dive on PVC versus vinyl when we had some other issues with some windows. We had a vinyl window that was embedded with wood fibers or wood sawdust, and I did a lot of reading, looking into the different types of extrusion materials, and I cannot tell you everything that I read, but it pretty well speaks to what you just said, Mr. Shattuck. I'm comfortable that this is PVC, just looking at all of this. Are there any other questions or any other
So
comments?
maybe it's not the material itself, but I guess how it's all joined together. I mean, is it one continuous piece, or and looking at it, it doesn't appear to be. Did it create one form?
Yeah, it's not just one piece. I guess it's obviously like several pieces put together, but to create one window, yes.
Is it paintable?
I'm sorry.
It's paintable? I think it says so on the spec sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, I will close the window for discussion now. Ha, ha.
Thank you. Any other questions, though, on this? I mean, my question on the dividing lights, the Muntins, I'm satisfied with that. I'm glad you brought the window in because this example is better looking than the example in the spec sheet, right? The dividing lights, the Muntins look out of proportion to what's at that house now. So are there any other questions or concerns we can address?
Read that right there.
All right, let's see. So this basically confirms with what Mr. Shattuck had said. Mr. Deason just looked something up online. I'll just read this really quickly.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
you'll have this, if anybody ever
appreciate
asks
that,
you
yeah.
about your windows, you'll be able to just pull this out of your
Absolutely.
pocket. Vinyl extrusion is a continuous manufacturing process where heated PVC components are forced through a custom shaping die, then cooled and cut to create continuous plastic profiles. So thank you. It just,
That was what I
and
think.
thank
Is it
you.
continuous or is it, but,
Well, the continuous is the pieces, right? And just like any other window construction where those pieces are then cut. this way. It is not seamless.
Absolutely.
All right, anything to add, Mr. Morrison, on the rest of the application?
No, I think it's pretty cut and dry. I
Well,
think we're just trying to get this going. We have tenants
Sure.
moving in late
Well,
July, so.
yeah, really sorry to see that it was hit by that tree.
It's quite a surprise.
Terrible. Any other questions for the applicant? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing the window. It really did help tonight. Opening the floor to public comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to?
Kelly Fitz, 19 Audubon Place.
Thank you.
I was the president of the OCA years ago when someone wanted to use a cellular PVC window, and that's when this whole cellular PVC came into being. That window was a Monarch cellular PVC, which is no longer made. That window was made of solid components as a wood window would be made. If you will, can you run back to the cross-section of the of this particular window? That. Can I point? So, get this down here. So what you're seeing in this location, right there, that is a solid cellular PVC piece of trim. Do you see that it's not extruded, that it is solid? That is what the original approved HPC cellular PVC window was made of completely. It was not extruded vinyl. It was solid pieces. It was built as if it was a true wood window. And that was the only PVC window that I understood was ever approved by HPC. And so the fact that now we're seeing extruded PVC, which is a vinyl, this to me is an extruded vinyl window, which to my knowledge has not been approved by the HPC. As I said, the Monarch window, the original one, was made out of solid parts. You didn't have all that. You didn't have molded, extruded bits and pieces. It was solid, just like that is, made just like a wood window. So it was, other than the PVC, solid PVC versus wood, there was no difference in how it was constructed. I'm afraid that, to me, this is a vinyl window. It clearly says it's vinyl. We know it's extruded. We know it's not built like a historic wood window would be built. And so I do not think that this is an appropriate
Thank
thing
you.
to approve. So
Appreciate that.
just wanted
Thank
to
you
give
very
that
much.
history.
Is there anyone else here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Right. I'll close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members.
Was the Monarch window replaced with another window by them? Do you know?
That I don't know. But cellular PVC is an appropriate material, an approved material. Vinyl is not. Part of the problem with vinyl in terms of not process but material, chemical components, is that vinyl will, and I think Ms. Fitz can confirm this too, vinyl cracks and it changes color and it just doesn't have the longevity that cellular PVC has in terms of those properties. And so it's always a very slippery slope and a difficult one when we get into these non-wood windows. In my opinion, whenever we're dealing with non-wood windows.
Well, we're also dealing with the fact that it's solid and not solid. Like, there's the solid piece that she marked here on the front, but then you get into the extruded part, and if I heard it correctly, it was like the PVC was approved based on the Monarch, which was solid. The
Well-
PVC was not approved under an extruded window, an extruded piece.
The spec sheet makes it clear to me that there are vinyl components that are extruded vinyl. It says, if you go back to the part of the spec sheet that has, I think it's a squirrel in the window, not a
It is.
monkey.
It's not a monkey, it's a squirrel or a fox.
You see this next to the last paragraph, our white vinyl jam liner uses a silent spring. So that echoes what Ms. Fitz just pointed out in the cross-sectional diagram. And there are components of this window that are not PVC. They are partially vinyl windows, if not classified as vinyl windows. There are vinyl components to this window. To me, it's without a question, there are vinyl components.
And so I think what we need to consider as we talk about these various parts of the window is what, how much of the window is vinyl. These are these jam liners. We've got the stiles, the meat rails, everything else is cellular PVC. I'm assuming the trim pieces, I don't know if they are, but the basic structural elements are PVC, and then we have these, it appears jam liners are the extruded vinyl. We've closed it, public comment, yeah.
Can we look at the approved material sheet again? Can you throw
Sure,
that
take,
back up?
take us to approved materials.
I think this goes back to the same thing we had with the windows a couple of months ago. When these were written, we even looked at Monarch. That's when we discovered Monarch wasn't made anymore. And now so much is changing in the material world about composition and so forth that it's almost like the design guidelines need. The issue goes back to the design guidelines, not to necessarily which windows come up here.
And I tend to think, looking back on the Monarch that's listed as an appropriate material, it's Monarch M-Cell vinyl clad window, which is this new window, could it be better classified as PVC window that is vinyl clad, the glass is vinyl clad?
No, it's not vinyl clad. We're looking at the jam liners, so that's a different component. That vinyl clad means that the structural stuff, right, the stiles, the meat rails, I'm assuming that possibly the muttons too, I guess, are wrapped in this stuff, right? And usually it's vinyl clad wood or aluminum clad wood is what we typically see with that. But we typically don't drill down and look at the jam liners. At least we haven't when we've seen other cellular PVC windows.
So did the Monarch window have vinyl elements?
It was a solid PVC, was it not?
Says vinyl clad.
It says vinyl
It just
clad.
says vinyl clad there.
So I guess to me, the real question is that the inappropriate material as vinyl, is that meant, is the spirit of that being an inappropriate material, that it's inappropriate when it's the primary material for the entire construction of the window, as an aluminum window would be, as we see that is also listed as inappropriate. To me, because vinyl clad being appropriate material on the Monarch tells me that if it's a minor component, that perhaps it is an appropriate material. That's my reading of that.
I think we need to go to window school.
Well, I've got metal clad windows, and they have jam liners with vinyl. I mean, you can't make them out of metal clad. They wouldn't slide very well.
Right.
And,
That's a good point.
I think if you look at that picture, that photo it appears that the window itself is solid, just like the piece that's pointed out on the outside. The only thing that's vinyl is the jam liner. So I don't know, can a window slide on
on a solid piece of something, I don't know, it's gotta be a little flexible, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a good point, but, looking at the spec sheet, we can see very clearly that the structural elements, the window parts, rather than the mechanics of it, are cellular PVC. Other thoughts? It's always interesting when we talk about windows. Something comes up and we, work it through, and I think each time we have these discussions is really valuable as we, move forward on our various applications, right?
Yeah, to your point, Pella Wood windows, according to their specs, their double hung windows utilize vinyl jam liners.
Yeah, thank you. Any further discussion, folks? All right, hearing no further discussion, we have a standing motion to approve HPC 2826, Harrison Howell petitions for certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of windows on the primary structure on the property located at 1020 and 1022 17th Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Alabash?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Diab?
Yes.
I vote yes. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
Ms. Stone?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison, please let the applicant know that the application was approved this evening, but if anything changes, to have him please contact city staff before he moves forward. There will be a final inspection to ensure compliance with what we have approved tonight. And good luck with the project. I know it's a big one. Thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing the window. And have the record show that Ms. Stone is recusing her from the hearing, and we'll just give her a second to exit the room.
Okay, so our next case is HPC 2926, Wesley Crunkleton petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the removal of an existing brick wall to be replaced with a wooden fence, the installation of a driveway security gate, the alteration of an existing cinder block wall, and the installation of windows on the primary structure on the property located at 2009 9th Street in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here's where that property is located in its historic district off of 9th Street, heading towards 20th Ave. And an aerial view of that property. It's directly behind a case we saw in February, Collier Row. Here is the subject property, the adjacent property to the west, which is again this Collier Row development, 905 Alden Ave. The adjacent property to the north and to the east. So the petitioner proposes to remove an existing brick wall on the eastern side of the property. This wall is approximately 72 feet long and almost 4 feet tall, and it's currently leaning and cracking in several places. So following the removal of this existing brick wall, the petitioner proposes to install a new 8-foot wooden fence that'll be shorter. It'll be 55 feet long, about. The proposed wooden fence will begin approximately 16 feet behind its current location on the existing brick wall, adjacent to the rear column of the front porch of the primary structure. And then on the western side of the property, the petitioner proposes to remove an existing 7-foot wooden fence and installing a new 8-foot wooden fence. The proposed fence will be 61 feet long, matching the length of the fence that will be removed, and then both proposed fences will be constructed using 6x6 wooden posts. Along the southern property line, the petitioner proposes adding cinder block to an existing rear wall. The existing rear wall is also cinder block, and it's 5 feet tall and 22 feet long. The petitioner proposes adding 3 feet of cinder block on top of the existing wall to make it 8 feet tall, and it'll be painted to match the rest of the existing wall. Additionally, the petitioner proposes installing a metal security gate across the 9-foot wide driveway. The gate will be aligned behind the driveway, and the starting point of the proposed fence on the eastern property line, and it'll be 6 feet tall at its center. The petitioner also proposes adding tempered glass to 2 existing wooden window casements on the enclosed back porch. The western-facing casement is 6 inches deep and 44 inches wide, and then the southern-facing casement is 6 feet deep, well, that should be inches deep, and 10 inches wide. So here's a site plan of the property. On the red lines, you'll see where the petitioner is proposing to install a new 8-foot wooden fence. On the eastern side, there's an existing brick wall, and on the western side, there's an existing wooden fence. And then in the back, in that blue line, is where the existing cinder block wall is located. It's 5 feet tall. The petitioner wants to make it 8 feet tall by adding some more cinder block on top. Here's a site plan of the property. And here is that existing brick wall on the western side of the property that will be removed and replaced with a wooden fence. Here you can see some of the cracks, and in the other photos, you can almost see that it's leaning. Here we have another site plan showing again the locations of those fences and where the proposed parking for the adjacent townhomes will be. So this is really just to cover up any noise pollution that might result from that parking. And here again, you can see this is the rear of those townhomes, which will be directly adjacent to the eastern property line of the property that we're seeing today. And they're wanting to put up, again, that 8-foot wooden fence there. Here's a drawing of that gate, or that fence. It'll be similar to the picture in the middle. And then on your right side is the existing fence that's currently on the eastern side of the property.
And let me just ask, is that finished side on the applicant's property, or are they on the other side?
The petitioner can
Okay.
confirm. Here is that existing cinder block wall in the back. Again, it's 5 feet tall. And here's the location of that enclosed back porch. It has 2 existing wooden window casements, and they're just wanting to add some tempered glass there. And then that red line there on the driveway is the location of the new security gate. And again, it'll be 6 feet tall at its center. Here's another image of where that new security gate will be placed, aligned with the brick wall will be removed and replaced. The new fence will start there, aligned with that back column of that patio, and that's where the gate will be placed. Here's an image of that gate, an example image. Another one. Here's a spec sheet for that gate. It's steel and cast iron, predominantly steel, and then some parts cast iron. Here are images of those existing wooden window casements that the petitioner proposes to install tempered glass in. And here is where that enclosed back patio is. Let me draw. So you're coming in from 9th Avenue here to the back. This portion is enclosed. This is a window, the smaller one, and the other window would be on this wall. So 2 windows.
And these currently have glass in them?
They do not. It's just the casement, yeah. And here are some more photos. What you see here from this perspective, this is all 905 Almond Ave, so where that parking will be placed for the adjacent townhome development.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, what I highlighted kind of poorly here, this is from the perspective of 905 Almond Ave, where that rear parking will be placed. That makes sense. Okay, so materials for this project include wood, cinder block, a metal gate, and tempered glass. Here are the design guidelines for rehabilitation and alteration. For windows, for fences and walls, that they should maintain the overall continuity of the district as viewed from the public right-of-way. They should complement buildings and do not detract from their character in relation to their neighbors with the design, scale, placement, material of the fences, walls, and gates, and they shouldn't exceed generally 6 feet. Here we see that wood slat is an appropriate fence material, as well as the powder-coated aluminum mimicking cast/wrought iron for the gate. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question. So just the tempered glass part of the application. I don't recall that we have ever seen a case where someone wants to just put panes of glass in, because we're not talking about windows. We're talking about just, I'm not quite sure how to conceptualize this, like where it lands. Because to me, we've got the window, we're not changing the materials, but we're putting a piece of glass in, right?
Right, yeah. That could likely be done expeditedly through staff, but we could approve that here as well,
Sure.
just because it's part of this application, but that's a good point.
Yeah, I was just, that seemed unusual to me, and I was sort of thinking, well, even if they were, at first I thought they were changing out the glass to tempered glass, but to me, that seems like a very, very minor kind of thing. And I just wanted to ask if we've ever done this or seen this before.
Right. It would be kind of equivalent to changing out a pane that breaks. That makes sense.
Yeah, sort of same idea. Thanks.
I had a question of
Yes.
staff. One of the issues I think that we should consider, so far as the height of the fence is concerned, are those on neighboring properties? And you may have said it and I missed it if you did, but are there fences on neighboring properties? And if so, what are the height of those?
Yeah, so there are fences on both sides of the property, so on the east and the west.
Okay.
On the east is backing up into that rear parking for the townhomes. They have a 6'7" tall fence, and then on the other side, it's about a 9-foot fence. So, yes, there is existing fences on both sides.
Did you say a 9-foot fence?
Yes, I believe so. Tricia sent an email earlier. I don't know if you could pull it up.
Yeah, we can't confirm what the size is of this fence here, but for these two fences for the Collier row, we know that they're going to be 6'7".
Right. But on the, let's say the right side of that drawing, the red line, we saw photos of that, right? Didn't we? That's not 9 feet.
That's the subject property. They're
On the
talking about a
right, and then
fence.
over on the left. So that, we're talking about that brick wall there? Is that what?
So the brick wall is on the subject property. You can't really
Right.
see the fence of the adjacent property in this picture, but it's way behind, closer to the rear of the property.
Is it chain link?
That's scaffolding. I was by the property the other day, and that is big metal pieces that are stacked up against the brick, and the brick is giving way a little bit to that. I think they're getting ready to paint that house next door.
So were you saying that the fence on that adjoining property is in that vegetation? Okay.
Yes, there's a fence there.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're, I think I see what you're talking about.
The back of
This.
that right. Yeah, and that back there. See that?
No.
To the right, that.
Oh, that
There's a
thing.
fence in there. That's what we're seeing in the other picture. Can you go back to that previous picture?
Used to be a chain link.
From the back of the subject property?
Used to be.
Yeah. See that on the right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The property owners may be able to speak a little bit more
Sure.
on that fence as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Everybody good? All right. Thank you very much. Let me ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward, please. And would you mind stating your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, Wesley Cronkleton,
2009 9th Street.
Thank you for coming tonight. We have a lot of questions for you tonight. I think one of them, why don't we just address the issue of the, whatever that is with the vegetation growing on it next to your property?
Yeah, so it is not scaffolding. That is a metal pipe fence.
No, but there is that scaffolding, though, that's leaning against the brick.
Correct.
In that
And-
photo,
And I
but-
took a picture today of the, I guess it's like a hog wire that is attached to the metal piping. That's what all the vegetation is growing on right now. And it is close to 9 feet in height. And so part of the reason for an 8-foot request is to hopefully shield some of that. The brick wall is leaning, so there's a little bit of a safety issue there. There was never proper footings put in place on the brick wall when it was originally built. If we removed the brick wall and had to put on another brick wall, we would need to dig down and pour concrete. If you notice, the driveway goes all the way up against the brick wall, and there's likely going to be damage to the driveway at that time to dig deep enough to pour footings, hence the reason for a wooden fence, since there's other wooden fences in neighboring properties.
Well, as I said, on the photo on the left, I went by the property the other day, and you can just barely see it, but there was scaffolding leaning up against that brick, and I could see how the brick wall was giving way a little bit, so
That's
that
right.
kind of
And I don't know if the scaffolding caused it or not.
No, I'm not saying it did either, but it did draw my eye to it, and so it kind of confirms what you're saying about that brick wall.
Correct. Yeah, it is definitely leaning. And so we would like to make it a little bit safer. I don't think a lean will correct itself over time. I think it'll continue to move in that direction. And you can see the start of the metal fencing and kind of hog mesh wire there behind it. So the idea with the 8-foot fence is to help shield some of that. And the reason to continue the cinder block behind it and the other 8-foot is just to have a continuous 8-foot fence around the entire property instead of different levels.
But you didn't consider wood where that cinder block is? Cinder block isn't an approved material.
It's
and-
already a cinder block wall. We're just adding a couple to it. We could tear the cinder block wall down. What we were going to do is put stucco on top of it so it didn't look like a cinder block is the only thing that we could do to try to make it look in keeping with the home, which is what we want to do. The cinder block is there today. 5 foot's pretty low, and it's going to be a parking lot right behind it, so somebody can just get out of the car and look right over into our yard. We just wanted to, since it's going to be a parking lot, not just a parking space, just have a little additional privacy.
So are you saying tonight that, excuse me, y'all would do a stucco on the concrete block wall? 'Cause
Correct.
That is approved.
Yeah, that's right. So I talked to a contractor today, and they can do kind of that wash finish on the concrete block to make it not look like cinder block, to make it look more like a stucco finish. Okay.
And that's not in the application?
No, this is the first time hearing that.
Okay. Mr. Gongold, let me ask you another question, and I don't remember which photo it is. Let me ask you about the wooden fence, and if we can go to, I don't know, I asked about one of the questions. I guess this one. So is this finished side of the fence on your view? Like, what is your fence going to look like? The photo on the right?
Yeah, so we would have the unfinished
Side.
side on our side.
On your side.
So we would have a finished side on the neighboring side, so they
Okay.
would have a more finished
I just wanted to
look.
confirm that because I wasn't quite sure from the application what was happening. Thank you.
Understood. And on the windows, I can, if you want me to touch on that. just a
Sure, I
little
think
bit.
that's such a small issue, but yeah, let's hear about the windows.
So one of the photos, I've taken a couple extra, but it's got a wood floor on there as well, kind of a pine flooring. So everything inside is wood, and it looked like there was some sort of either screening or glass windows in the past there. We're not changing the sizes of the opening or anything. We're really trying to protect the wood because you can see it's already starting to buckle a little bit when you walk in. And so it's really more about protecting the home by putting something there.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Any other questions? All right, well, if anything else comes up, we'll invite you back.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. Have we had any submitted comment for this one?
We have not, no.
And so I will open the floor to public comment. Anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to?
I know you love me, right? Kelly Fitz, 19 Audubon Place. I've been to this house. It's a lovely house, a lovely property. There are some issues with it. I know that don't fit in, like the concrete block, existing concrete block wall in the back. And as a architect designer, you know, I'm not an architect, but a designer, I think that if they did put a stucco finish on that would hopefully solve the problem with adding on to the existing block wall. Regarding the brick wall that they're trying to remove, it is severely leaning. The photographs really don't really show that very well. And it is probably, you know, it'll probably stand up, but if somebody were to tap it with their car, it just probably topple. And then we'd be kind of looking at an emergency situation here. So the only other thing, as far as the height of this, you know, 8 feet, 7 feet, I understand that they want to hide the unsightly things next door. And I'll leave that up to you, but what is there now on the neighbor's property is just, it kind of looks like some conduit that they've put together, you know, some big 1.5-inch conduit that they've kind of put together in some sort of a frame with a green-coated small gauge hog wire that things are growing on. So it is not in keeping with the appearance of the what we'd like to see in the historic districts. And, you know, I understand why they would not want to necessarily be looking at two or 3 feet of that over on their property. So, and then about the glass here, we had a similar situation at our house where we had a little back porch that was like 4x4. We didn't have a wood floor, but it was a little 4x4 screened in, and it just stayed filthy all the time, for one thing. And so this one's so small, and I understand that there's going to be parking next to it. So I think they were talking about putting like tempered double pane glass on that so that they could get some sound attenuation from it, so that they reduce the sound level coming from this parking that's right adjacent to it. And since it was never probably a window, never had a true window sash in it, I don't know that there's much difference between putting a piece of plate glass in this very small location versus making them put a window in it. It wasn't appropriate.
I don't think there's any
it was
issue.
original,
I don't think there's any issue with that part of the application. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so I'm, in support of removing the brick and putting up a fence. So
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else to speak in support of or opposition to? All right, let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. Let's just take this apart bit by bit. We've got this slide up. So let's just talk about the tempered glass. To me, it really is almost a non-issue. You know, they're putting glass in these openings that are clearly windows. We've never seen anything like this. Typically, we don't. It's very simple. So we can just pull that out and have our discussion on, the materials of the fence and the height of the fence, I think, are the main issues that we see in the rest of the application. We've got the gate as well. Do you want to talk about the gate next, since it's sort of a small element to this? 6 feet tall, powder-coated steel with some cast iron elements, probably those finials. Sort of a type of fence we see throughout the historic districts. Any questions or issues or comments on that? 6 feet tall. Okay, so we'll move on. We've set those aside. Now we have to talk about, the removal of the brick wall, putting up of wooden fence. We're looking at an 8-foot wooden fence, that's sort of part B on that one. And then we have the cinder block wall, and we're talking about extending that 3 feet to 8 feet in height. Cinder block on its own is not appropriate, but stucco finished sort of, is there. But we're looking at 8 feet, and the design guidelines say, it doesn't say must be 6 feet, but it says preferably or generally 6 feet in height. So, thoughts?
In particular, my issue with the height is that there's going to be an adjoining property with a fence that is 6'7", if I heard that correctly.
Not on the south elevation.
Okay.
I'll go back to the site plan.
The west elevation.
Right, so this is the side, that's the side with the brick wall that'll be removed with a new wooden fence. The other red, there's an existing wooden fence that'll be removed, again, 8-feet fence. The blue is the existing cinder block wall. They're adding 3 feet of cinder block to make it 8 feet.
Okay.
Right, but the 6'7" fence is where?
It's on
Let's draw it on there, if you couldn't do that, Mr. Pons.
that side.
So there are going to be 2 fences back to back. Is that
That's
the
one.
proposal?
Yeah. And that's the issue that I have, is if you have the adjacent property to the west is going to have a fence. If I recall the proposal, there was going to be lighting along that fence. There were going to be brick columns, and now we're going 8 feet with it. Above that, it's going to sort of obscure what was an appropriate height fence with what is now, in my consideration, an inappropriate height fence. Where the cinder block is, if there's nothing behind that, I find that less a break from the general rule of 8 foot, but when you have fences back to back, that's the issue that I have.
Well, let me just ask for clarification. So with the Collier Row fence, when we say it's 6'7", we're talking about the tallest part of that, right? The brick piers, not the fence itself, because wasn't the fence itself 6 feet? So we have these sort of elements that punctuate along the length of that fence that are 6'7", but the fence itself, the way I kind of view the fence, the main part of it is 6 feet tall, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's really 6 feet for that fence, and then 6'7" for these
Right.
punctuating elements of that fence for the Collier Road.
The caps of the brick is going to be
Yes.
7 inches.
Yeah, so it's just popping it up, but it's not like the entire fence is 6'7". Is that clear? You guys good? Okay.
Can we see a photo? Aren't those isn't that fence in a photo somewhere?
So, no, it wasn't
They're
part
not?
of it. Yeah, it wasn't part of the application. It was just like internal documents. I don't necessarily know if we can really share in this meeting.
Okay,
Hasn't been submitted officially
okay.
as part of this application.
Their fence would have to have, quote, the good side. Collier Road's fence would have to have, quote, the good side or the correct side facing the neighbor.
I think the design of that was that kind of dual-sided finish. You know, it wasn't right, correct? Wasn't it? It's sort of clean on both sides. But
Right, it's
yes.
essentially the same on both sides.
Yes,
on both.
yes,
No support members except for the brick.
correct. Working from memory, which is not always an easy thing to do. But I do remember, as we talked about that in our discussion about that project.
I think my question, too, is that one side, that west side of the fence toward Collier Road. That's my question as an 8 versus a 6.
Well, and keep in mind, too, we've seen proposals for 8-foot fences, and we very rarely go with 8 feet. You know, we say, generally speaking, 6 feet. 6 feet is fairly tall. So it is an unusual request. It's not something we see, and it's not something we've always approved as well. And in my hearing of this, I'm hearing more and more from discussion that, for me, I'm not convinced 8 feet is appropriate here. Just listening to everybody. talking about this and thinking about the Collier Road fence and the height of that, then we've got this thing that's really 2 feet taller. I'm having trouble justifying the 8-foot height for that.
I cannot justify it.
And, yeah. There it is.
There we go.
There we go.
So this will mimic, so going back to, sorry. So this portion and this portion will have that similar fence. And then this, of course, is the wire fence that exists.
And there is an existing wooden fence on the west side currently. It's a stretch.
Right, with the finished side on the inside, not the outside. So, we've been around this before where we see some things that aren't in compliance because they were done before, the commission was established, or sometimes things are done without commission approval and they just kind of slide through. So with that particular fence, having that finished side on the inside, to me, doesn't mean that that's okay if we're thinking about that particular issue with it, or even thinking about the heights of some things as well. I'm struggling with the cinder block, but I have to say that since the applicant mentioned about stuccoing the cinder block, I have less problem with that as a material.
Yes.
But I do have problem with it for the height. I think an 8-foot cinder block wall is not appropriate. But I would like to hear what others think.
I agree. I think 8 foot, it takes away from, regardless of what height was there, I see we have one that's 7 feet tall on the western property. That doesn't justify to me going up enough, because that's out of compliance, doesn't justify going another foot out of compliance. But in particular, when we've got these adjoining fences, one we just saw a rendering of that's, a decorative element that's going to add to the character of the district by placing, sort of one-upping it, right next to it with even stuccoed and finished, is going to interrupt what otherwise contributes to the district.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts?
What about the east side of the property? We haven't talked about that.
I still have trouble with 8 feet. I just, 8 feet is really tall. That's a sort of modern home ceiling height in, 8-foot ceilings. And I just think I think it's a lot. The fact that we've got this other thing going on with the vegetation growing on it, I think that's one of these things that, I'm going to just say grandfathered. It's been around for a bit. We would never have approved that.
Right.
And I think just because that's there doesn't mean it makes this other thing okay. I think 8 feet is just too high. I have no trouble with the design of the fence, with the finished side out, or the materials, but I really have trouble with an 8-foot height.
I do as well, in particular, because I have an issue with the western and the southern property line fence being 8 feet, to me, were that eastern portion in a vacuum, I might have less of an issue with 8 feet, but considering the two other.
Yeah, I think the consistency of 6 feet would work better.
Right, that's a better way of
And
saying
be
it.
more consistent.
All right, let me ask Office of Counsel a quick question here and some thinking that I have. So listening to the discussion, it sounds to me like that the commission is really not keen on approving, say, an 8-foot fence, but that the materials and the style are okay at a more conventional and generally approved height of, say, 6 feet. So let me ask you, Mr. Cheshire, may I ask the applicant if he might consider a change of height?
I think that's fine.
All right. So, Mr. Crunkleton, would you mind coming up for a second? I'm just sort of thinking in what is, I don't know, sort of a way of working through this for you, understanding your concerns and things. So you've heard some of the conversation, right, with the commission members, and 8-foot fence just is appearing to me with the discussion as being too high, too tall.
Sure.
Would you consider 6 foot? That is the kind of thing that we've approved many times. Your materials are good. The cinder block, stuccoed would be okay. It's the height we're stuck on.
Yeah, I learned a lot of new stuff tonight myself. I
Yeah.
was not privy to what our neighbor was going to build. My concern was
Sure.
that they were putting a parking lot on the other side of where this was going.
Right.
I agree. I don't think it looks good to have an 8-foot fence on top of a 6-foot. I actually don't even like fences abutting each other because of all the trash and stuff that gets in between it. Am I allowed to ask questions?
Sure.
Has their fence been approved, and what's the timeline of it being built?
So they're currently in the process of submitting applications for construction. So I would say is a very high likelihood that it's going to be built, barring them pulling out their application and not going forward with the project.
That would be my only concern, is that we're talking about a to-be fence and not one that's there today.
Yeah, well, what I can tell you what we approved. If we go back to that image, if you can pull that up easily, we approved this.
Okay.
All right, so you can see this. Now, what they will do with this, with their proposal that's been approved, we can't say. If they decide to change it, they've got to go back to city staff and come back to us or whatever. So and their timeline is not anything that we deal with. But this is what we approved here, so you can see what is going to go up in that area. But I think sort of the main thing here with moving this along for you is it's really like the height thing, because let's say you decide after looking at this and considering this, you don't want to put up that fence, right? But it's been approved. It's okay. You don't have to build it.
Sure.
If you change your mind on that. My concern, you've come here tonight, we've been talking about this, working through a lot of the good elements in your proposal, and I'd like to just be able to see you, leave tonight with something that you can work with.
No,
And
I
then,
appreciate that.
should you decide you don't want to do an element of it, you see city staff, and it's very easy to change that. What's more difficult is if we were to deny the 8-foot fence, let's say, and then you have to leave and come back,
Sure.
with another proposal.
No, understood.
So I'm just sort of thinking about like your concerns and how we work and, the design guidelines, all of those sorts of things, and helping you move along.
Yeah, no, 6 foot especially on those sides. I'll take every inch you can give me against the one that's on the other side, because it is horrible looking what she has up. So anything y'all can do on the side that's got the hog wire, we would greatly appreciate. But the 6 foot on the rest of it, yeah, I don't have any issue with that.
Understood. That's helpful. Are there anything else we want to add to our little discussion here? All right, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have a little modification here on the proposal. All right. The applicant has agreed that should we deem a 6-foot fence more appropriate, that he is willing to work with that. So we can proceed with that conversation then. So what we have, right? We have the wooden fences, we have the cinder block fence. I'll just say I don't have a problem with what they're proposing on the wooden fence in terms of material or style. I don't have a problem with the cinder block as long as it's stuccoed as a material. At 6 feet, I feel that is in compliance with the design guidelines. I'd like to hear what the rest of you think. And even on the side with the hog wire, I just think the consistency of 6 feet all the way around the property is more in keeping with the historic district and that look, right? What's appropriate in the neighborhood.
And then one additional component, the gate.
Well, we had talked about the gate.
Yes.
Yes. So we were good with the gate and we were good with the tempered glass. So we've set those guys aside and we're just talking about the fences. Everybody's good? Okay.
I think 6 foot is more consistent with what we see.
It's absolutely true. This is what we typically see as 6 feet. It's been a rare circumstance, and I think there was one, and it was down a ravine, and so it was a very different kind of situation when we did a slightly taller fence years and years ago. But typically, we do deal with 6 feet, 6 foot. Any other discussion points? Everybody's good? Okay. So shall we move forward then? Let me see if I can get the wording correct, and city staff, stay on me on this one, okay? So we have a standing motion to approve HPC 2926, Wesley Crunkleton petitions for certificate of appropriateness for the removal of an existing brick wall to be replaced with a wooden fence, the installation of a driveway security gate, the alteration of an existing cinder block wall, and the installation of windows on the primary, and it's really tempered glass, on the primary structure on the property located at 2009 9th Street in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. The fences will be no taller than 6 feet, and the cinder block will be stuccoed. We got it?
That works for me. Yes, that works.
We're good? Okay. So let's vote. Let's begin on my right. Please, Mr. Deason.
Yes.
Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Diab?
Yes.
Mr. Shattuck?
Yes.
Mr. Elebash?
Yes.
And Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Crunkleton, thank you so much for your patience and for working with us. Your application with the 6-foot fence and the stuccoed cinder block has been approved. Should anything change, though, see city staff before you move forward, just to confirm that everything's okay. Good luck with your project, and thank you for coming tonight. Sure. Oh, that's a city staff question about stepping on the other side. Yeah. But a good question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And let the record show that Ms. Stone has returned to the hearing.
Okay, our next case is HPC 3126, Roger Bedford petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a fence on the property located at 50 Sherwood Drive in the Sherwood Drive Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have a location of where that property is located in its historic district. It's right off of Jack Warner as you're coming into Sherwood. As you can see on the aerial. Here's our subject property, the adjacent property to the south and to the east. So on April 1st, 2026, a letter of violation was sent to the property owner for the construction of a fence without proper approvals from the city. Around the same time, the property owner was given a stop work order. The property owner has not submitted a certificate of appropriateness for review. Prior to the violation and the stop work order being placed, the petitioner constructed a 9-foot, 8-inch tall fence along the side property lines of the property, and the unfinished side of the fence is facing the exterior of the property. So here is what that fence looked like when the stop work order was placed back in February. Here's some more recent photos of the fence. As you can see, that unfinished side is facing Jack Warner, and some more photos. Materials include wood. The design guidelines for fences and walls which wood slot is an appropriate material. We received no public comment on this case. Are there any questions for staff?
I
Wait.
have one.
Go ahead.
And it has nothing to do with the fence. It has to do with the lot. Is that considered 2 front yards because it's on a corner in the historic district?
Yeah, per zoning, it would be 2 front yards.
So the side facing Jack Warner is a front yard?
It would be a front yard.
Okay. And so how does the fence work in terms of fences in front yards?
So it would be considered a front yard fence.
And
Yeah, I think Ms. Stone is asking, sort of restrictions or thoughts on when we
Yeah.
deal with a front yard fence as opposed to a backyard fence.
Right, so I guess you would look at the front yard fence specific guidelines. From a zoning perspective, if they get approved tonight, they would also have to go through zoning board of adjustment for approval for the height of the fence.
and I'm sorry, I tried to memorize the zoning guidelines for front yard
Yeah,
fences.
no, I'm
but
not
they
saying the
just went out of
zoning,
my
because
head.
y'all
Or the- whatever.
y'all don't deal with the zoning at
No,
all.
but the guidelines for front yard fences, if I
Right, we
remember
can
them, but
pull
I
them
don't
up
think
on the
Sunny
screen.
does, so if you'll just,
We can pull them up on the screen for you.
I've just got a procedural question. Maybe I misunderstood something. So a stop work order's been issued. They've not filed a certificate of appropriateness?
They have not, no.
So do we need to act on that because there's been a stop work order?
Yes, so we need to get a resolution here that HPC either approves or denies this, so that we can then move forward with the next action that we need as the city
Gotcha.
to go forward with.
Okay, thank you.
But I am that was actually a very good question, and I hadn't thought of it that way. Since they have not submitted an application for a certificate of appropriateness, when I move through this and I say we have a standing motion to approve something, how do we approve something where there has been no formal application made? We've got a stop work order on something. This is a very different and unusual situation because the applicant has not submitted materials to say this is our application and what we would like to have approved. We are going with a violation in terms of a stop work order that the city is presenting. So you guys seem to be presenting the case.
Right, but essentially you have to ask for a certificate of appropriateness to do this work. And with Roger Bedford being the property owner, essentially we are bringing forward the case and we're
On his
listing,
behalf?
yeah, on his behalf.
So he didn't do any of the
essentially.
paperwork, you guys did it all?
He did not.
Okay,
We reached
just
out to
asking.
him we reached out to him in the violation letter saying that you have to apply during this time, otherwise we'll be placing you on the agenda.
All right, so that's valuable information. Thank you, Mr. Elbash, Ms. Shattuck, for bringing that up. Because, yes, so that we can move along, they were given the opportunity to
That's
provide.
a great way to put it. We gave them the
okay.
opportunity
Got it.
to supply additional information related to their petition.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sort of dovetailing on that, though, for a quick second, the fence that was there before they built the extension on there, do we have any record on when that was approved or what was approved? Because as we know, it looks like it has some age to it, and we do see some fences and some other changes that were done prior to HPC or without HPC approval. I just didn't know if we have any information on that.
Yeah, I'll look that
Okay,
information up
thank
for
you.
you.
I had a question, kind of going back to the first slide with the kind of order of events of the stop work order. I thought I saw something about April 1st, but then it was also February 17th. Was there more than one stop work order and it just continued?
Yeah, there was one work stop order. We continued, I guess, basically this case. It was supposed to come on the May agenda, but now we're seeing it in June. So it is a bit late on the agenda. But there is only one stop work order placed
Okay,
and
I was
one
just-
violation letter sent. Yes.
why was it, wasn't on the April, or you were just waiting for
What was
him?
the April 1st?
I mean,
Right, so I think we had to kind of work through some things before we sent that violation letter, and we give them a little bit additional time when we send that violation letter to supply that additional material before they get on the agenda, so.
Sorry, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, no, that's a great
Thanks for
question.
the catch on that 217.
Yep, that was good. Thank you. Other questions for staff? Well, thank you. Is the applicant here, the applicant's or the property owner or the property owner's representative here to speak on behalf of this? All right, so seeing that the applicant is not here, let me see, have we received any submitted public comment? We've had none. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to this application? Hearing none, I'll close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. So we just had a nice discussion about fence heights, and we had a problem with an 8-foot fence. And here we have one that's 9 feet 8 inches. We have the finished side on the inside. So it's in violation of the design guidelines on 2 major fronts.
It's also, aerial.
Right, it's really this.
Is that part in the historic district as well, or is it just that part? How big is the district? So the district does include all of that.
Aside from the height of the fence and the unfinished side not complying with the design guidelines, I think the scale of the fence is wildly disproportionate to other fences that you are likely to see in a district, particularly with the visibility to Jack Warner Parkway. We're talking about
Yes.
a massive fence that does not seem in character with the district.
So it sounds to me, are there any other kind of comments on this fence? All right, it seems fairly straightforward to me because we have the standing motion to approve. So if you approve this and allow it to stay, you vote yes. If you think this is inappropriate, you vote no. We have a standing motion to approve HPC 3126 Roger Bedford petitions for certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a fence on the property located at 50 Sherwood Drive in the Sherwood Drive Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote. Dr. Nelson, please.
No.
Mr. Elbash?
No.
Shattuck?
No.
Mr. Diab?
No.
I vote no. Dr. Yarbrough?
No.
And Mr. Deason?
No.
And Ms. Stone?
No.
All right, so city staff, can you convey to the property owner that their application was denied and that they are to talk to you about steps moving forward?
We will.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to other business. Okay, HPC 3226, the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission will consider a petition for the removal of 1501, 1505, and 1507 Paul W. Bryant Drive from the Myrtlewood Drive Historic District and will make a recommendation to Tuscaloosa City Council. So here are some photos of the properties from the street. This is 1507, 1505, and 1501. And here they are in their historic district. They're the 3 homes facing Paul W. Bryant Drive, not the interior homes of Myrtlewood. Here you can see an aerial. On the left, you'll see the national designation for the Myrtlewood Drive Historic District, first established in 1985, and then in 2004, now we see the local designation with those 3 lots included in the historic district. So here's our statute that we're working with tonight. We're making a recommendation to City Council that the designation of any place, district, site, building, structure, objects, or work of art as historic property or historic district be revoked or removed. And I'll let the applicant come and present his materials.
All right, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Victor Hamby. I'm at SB Scoggin and Kane, 2728 8th Street, attorney for the petitioner.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to be heard this evening. Regrettably, my client was unable to attend. He's had some health issues. He is respectfully petitioning the Commissioners to remove these properties from the Historic District on the basis that they are not part of what would generally be considered the criteria for the Historic District and should not have been placed in it to begin with. We did submit these petitions independently and ask that they be considered independently. For the sake of time, I've got presentations on all of them, so we'll kind of aggregate them. But when the recommendation is made, we ask that they be made independently, and you'll see why there's some variation in the properties that make them kind of more suitable to be considered independently of one another as far as removal. They are grounded in the same fundamental facts, though. The same controlling law, which is Alabama Code 11-68-6, subsection C, which says a property may only carry a historic designation if it represents a significant aspect of the cultural, political, economic, military, or social history of a community, or has a significant relationship with the life of a historic person or event, or is part of the historic, architectural, or aesthetic heritage of the locality. These are the threshold requirements to be part of a historic district. Respectfully, my client doesn't believe his properties meet these requirements. Myrtlewood Drive as a whole does, but as you can see in the initial national designation, 2 of the 3 properties, 1505 and 1507, were left out. They were included in the local designation. My client feels all 3 properties should have been left out, but specifically 1505 and 1507 are the ones we believe have the strongest case for being removed. Functionally, these are Bryant Drive address properties. They're accessed off of Bryant Drive. They are contrasted to the quiet community nature of the interior of Myrtlewood Drive. They are off of an arterial roadway, significant high-density housing for students over there. Directly across the street is Bryant Row, presently under construction. And we'd asked the Commissioners to recommend to the City Council that these 3 peripheral addresses or parcels be removed from the Historic District of Myrtlewood Drive on the basis that they do not fit the criteria that I outlined originally. You'll see that one of the properties, 1501, is more of a collegiate Gothic style. I'll show that the interior homes are all Tudor or cottage revival homes. I'm still getting the terminology. You'll see some of the other ones, 1505 and 1507, are craftsman bungalows that bear little to no resemblance from the interior homes in Myrtlewood Drive. I've submitted 3 separate petitions. I know voluminous, but you can understand why. I've included all what I felt would be relevant documents, including deeds, plats, photographs of the property, surrounding development. I'll quickly, and try not to belabor any points, get y'all out of here, but I'd like the opportunity to go through my presentations and show the Commissioners what I mean when I make these points. So it's the front page for the petition. This is 1501, so this is the one closest to the interior, but still a Bryant Drive addressed property. So running through some of what we'll talk about, the property description, obviously, its location. I know you don't consider use. We feel differently, but I understand the Commission has a point on that. But we feel the location in relationship to the district enough are criteria for its removal, and additionally the failure to meet the statutory criteria outlined as far as not being a part of any historical, political, cultural event, and being in contrast to the architectural descriptions of the interior of the historic subdivision. So we'll show through this presentation briefly the surrounding land use, how this has kind of been altered from what it was originally intended, we believe, in 1985 as far as the national designation. So again, The distinctive architectural features of 1501 are more of a collegiate Gothic revival style. I'll point out to the best of my abilities some of the points we're making as far as the features and contrast. So you'll see that's 1501. They actually did a better job, honestly, than I did of putting together pictures. But it's a little small. But you can still see you've got the Gothic revival styled with the pointed Gothic arch over the entry, a herringbone brick pattern to the left of the door facing a round arched window also to the left. It's got a circular brick surround. It's got a smaller lot than a lot of the interior district homes. If you walked through that subdivision, there'd be a stark contrast between these homes as far as what they look like from the street, how they're accessed, and really how they're, I know you made a point to say use is not a consideration, but a lot of these other homes in the interior of the Myrtlewood Drive, they've got large backyards, single-family homes, a lot of entertainment area. These kind of differ from that, and I'll try to show why. Again, the statutory criteria, we don't believe any of these are met as far as the 1501 and 1505 and 1507 Bryant Drive properties. They've got no documented association with any significant historical event, movement, or institution. They've got no historic figure of any local, regional, state, or national significance associated with the property. And the architectural style of Gothic revival does differ from a uniform Tudor revival architectural style that depicts the interior.
Mr. Hammond, let me ask you a quick question. Can you go back 2 slides for me, please?
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
One more. Are you the author of this slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the right-hand side where it says subject property, are those your words, distinctive architectural features?
Yes.
Okay. You can continue where you were. Thank you.
Here's some photos from the property looking outward onto Bryant Drive. You can see Bryant Row and kind of the contrast you'll see in later slides between the arterial roadway depicted on Bryant Drive where these properties are functionally addressed. You'll see the contrast to the kind of quiet, more residential area of the interior. Again, showing the contrast here, you've got a nice quieter area of the neighborhood contrasted with the kind of high traffic, high density area of Bryant Drive. Again, showing some of the interior homes contrasted on the right. I'm no architectural expert, and that may have been what you're pointing out, but just looking at them, it's not as starkly pronounced in 1501, granted, but there are differences in architectural styles between the two that even a layperson could notice that I think would justify removal in this case. Again, just distinct architectural features. Doesn't have the same type of Gothic revival style as 1501. Another home in the interior of the drive, I believe, contrasts heavily with the Bryant Drive properties. Again, another home, more of, from what my research has told me, is more of like a Tudor revival style compared to what looks like a Gothic style. So again, this one is a little more similar, granted, but you can see in the back of the driveway leading out that there's a difference in the lot and the usage. It's got a much larger lot. It's used primarily, from what I understand, for single-family residence and has entertainment area in the back. And so again, our points here for 1501, the area surrounding the property is no longer defined by the quiet, stable, owner-occupied single-family use it may have been upon designation, especially in the 80s. And it's kind of in a transitional or buffer area where it doesn't fit into the historic district, my client contends. And there's no real preservation purpose, in our opinion, because it didn't fit the architectural uniformity of the remainder of the interior. Again, these are some contrasting features that I was able to identify kind of walking through there and kind of consulting the internet research that I had to kind of depict. Again, I'm no architectural expert or anything, but just a layperson I think would notice the difference between the Paul Bryant Drive addresses and the interior of Myrtlewood. And so, again, with 1501, like I said, I'm not going to belabor the point. We feel that it doesn't meet the statutory criteria for a historic district. It's functionally addressed not to the interior of Myrtlewood Drive like the remainder of the properties, save the other lots who are in a similar situation on Bryant Drive on the other side. But it is tied to an arterial roadway. It's got no real connection, in our opinion, with the quiet interior of Myrtlewood Drive. We think in this situation, it justifies removal for failure to meet the statutory criteria. And so I'll go on, and again, these slideshows, they do kind of go into the same points. Factually, the petitions are connected, but we would like them to be considered independently because we think the properties contrast and have different degrees of variation compared to the interior of the drive. So 1505 Myrtlewood Drive, or I'm sorry, Bryant Drive. Again, the same type of arguments here, the failure to meet statutory criteria. We think there's even more of an aesthetic and architectural contrast with this one. You'll be able to see it's craftsman bungalow, it's stucco. The gable it looks different than the other ones. It doesn't have those type of medieval elements that were even present as far as the Gothic style on 1501. It's got some other different features that we think distinguish it from the interior Myrtlewood Drive. So you'll see that's 1505 Bryant Drive, also part of lots 1 and 2, the historic district, and again restates some of the architectural features. And this is the access off Bryant Drive for 1505, and it's directly to the right of the property if you're facing it from the street. Again, we don't feel that this property has any significant cultural, political, economic, military, or social history or architectural features that are tied in like the rest of the interior of Myrtlewood Drive is. We've not been able to find any historical basis for the designation or association with any major event or person. So contrasting here, the Bryant Drive property, obviously it's addressed and accessed from Bryant Drive. It's on the periphery of the historic district. It's nearly adjacent to Bryant Drive apartments, right over and then across the street. Bryant Row, the biggest thing we think, it's a craftsman bungalow. It wasn't included in the national designation for a reason, because it's so architecturally distinct from the district, and it fronts an arterial roadway in contrast to the interior of Myrtlewood, which is a quiet residential streetscape with unified character. So again, some other pictures you've probably already seen in the last slide of just fronting Bryant Row and Bryant Drive. Again, contrasting the two, the quiet streetscape of Myrtlewood versus the more heavily trafficked, high-density type of housing on Bryant Drive. Showing, again, the same sort of photos you've seen, just contrasting the two, the craftsman bungalow from some of the more uniform architecture that's situated in the interior of the neighborhood. Again, I think I'm just a layperson, and I'm more an expert in the legal area, obviously, and not architecturally, but I think there's a pretty big distinction just looking at those properties for any layperson. You would walk by 1505 and 1507, and you wouldn't be able to tell that they were part of Myrtlewood. So again, several photos showing the contrast between the craftsman bungalow and the interior of Myrtlewood.
So we do have a 10-minute time limit for petitioner presentation. It's been that 10 minutes, but y'all can vote to allow for more time if you want to do that or give them any additional.
3 minutes? I'll go quick.
2 minutes. Let's do 2 minutes.
Okay. On to 1507, again, the same type of argument. It doesn't meet the statutory criteria. This is also a craftsman bungalow. It's similar to the other one. I'm no expert, like I said, but it does not have the distinct architectural features. It is also accessed off of Bryant Drive, and it's right next to the Bryant Drive apartments. No connection we've been able to find with any significant one of the criteria that would tie it into a historic district. This is much like 1505. But we feel even more strongly about this, rather, because it's adjacent to Bryant Drive Apartments, and it is, I believe, even smaller and more distinct from the interior of the district. Again, some photos contrasting Bryant Drive and Myrtlewood, and also contrasting the subject property from the interior homes off of Myrtlewood Drive. And respectfully, I would conclude my presentation. Appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Shall we ask the applicant any questions now, or shall we? I'll tell you what, let's have, well, I have a few comments and questions, and I wonder if it might be a good time now to ask the applicant's representative some of these issues, or perhaps we should have.
Sure.
Because one of the things I'd like to do, Office of Counsel presented a memo that's in the packets, and I think it's really of benefit to have I'll tell you what, let's do this now. So Mr. Hamby, if you don't mind, have a seat. We'll bring you back. I'd like to invite Office of Counsel to come up and make a few remarks that sort of summarize the issues that you provided in the memo that is part of the application packet.
Thank you, Ms. Pagani, and I will be very brief. I don't have a lot to add to what was in the memo. I'll briefly run through that. First thing I want to say is, as the representative for the commission, that I'm not here to advocate one way or another on what the commission recommends. But I do want to make sure that we are conveying what we believe the state of the law is with regard to recommending removal versus recommending an initial designation. Mr. Hamby, I think the thrust of a lot of his argument was that that the commission should recommend removing these properties unless HPC is satisfied that these properties meet the statutory criteria for designation. And that's not what the law says. So keeping those two things different is important. I think the commission is obviously free to consider the statutory designation criteria as much as it wants to. But the analysis tonight for the commission does not have to hinge on those statutory designation criteria. And my point is this, really, is it's not the commission's job to determine that it is satisfied that the statutory designation criteria are met or otherwise vote for a removal. It's the petitioner's job in cases like this to satisfy the commission that a removal is appropriate. So the commissioner has the burden, and I think that's important. With regard to these particular properties, this is actually the third time that a petition to recommend removal has been before the HPC. The owner of these properties was the owner when they were designated as a historic district in 2004.
At which time they met the statutory requirements to be included in the historic district, correct?
That was council's determination in 2004. Yes. And then twice in 2005, the property owner and applicant petitioned commission for removal. Both times the commission voted against removal, and both times the council ultimately obviously voted against removal. Lastly, as Mr. Hamby, I believe, said on use, we always, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we always are, mindful about not considering use since it has such little connection to the exterior features of properties. Obviously, removal of properties is a rarity that we don't see in front of the commission a lot, which is why we wanted to make sure that we've given it proper attention. I'm happy to try to answer any questions that any of the commission members have. Otherwise, I will get out of the way.
I do have a question, and maybe it'll be something that Mr. Hamby can address. But on one of his slides, he had said, under the grounds of removal, that continuation of having these properties in the historic district would be arbitrary and legally impermissible. Can you address that? Do you know what that means, that if we continue, this is legally not allowed? Legally impermissible? I'm not quite sure I understand that, and I'm asking you as Office of City Council.
Yep, Mr. Hamby may be better equipped to answer that in terms of what he meant. What I do know is that the council's already made a decision about whether these are historically significant properties for purposes of designating them as part of a historic district. So that determination, the statutory designation determination, has already been made. It's important to be mindful about relitigating old issues like that.
Right.
But at the same time, the commission is free to go into the statutory designation criteria as much as it sees fit.
Right. And, from your perspective, there is no legal reason why we must remove those. Right, like, we're under no legal obligation to remove them. This idea of legally impermissible.
No, the commission's under no legal obligation to. And again, and that's really what I was trying to say about the burden is the burden is on the applicant to convince the commission that removal is appropriate. But but the status quo is that they are already part of the district. So it's.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? What standard does the commission measure, sort of a standard or review, if you will, that the petitioner has satisfied the requirements for removal? What are we measuring that against the design guidelines?
Well, so certainly the statutory designation criteria is a fine thing to consider. The ordinance doesn't specify criteria to consider. It just says that the commission can recommend removal, and then that process is sent to the council. And I think that the idea, there's actually no basis in state law for removal. So this is solely a creature of the municipal code.
Any other questions?
I had a question, I think, to what you were saying. So what is the petitioner's burden to convince us by clear and convincing evidence, a preponderance of the evidence? Do we have any standard?
Not under the municipal code, as it pertains specifically to removal. So I think that's in the commission's hands.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Let me invite Mr. Hamby. And so we have questions for you. Let's start with this legally impermissible language that was in your slide. I'm just curious on why we see that appear.
My client obviously isn't saying there's some criminal violation going on. It would just be his argument. It would be, if it wasn't recommended, that since he doesn't satisfy the statutory criteria, that legally these properties should not be part of it.
And so you are, as the lawyer, are you comfortable with that language?
Well,
Continuation would be arbitrary and legally impermissible.
My client has the argument, is what, I mean, it's an argument being made.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack. Let me just say, first of all, thank you for you and your team putting together a packet and spending time thinking about all of this stuff. And it was, nicely presented. So there's a lot to talk about here, and we appreciate you coming and taking the time to do all of this stuff. I would like to ask you, as the presenter of the PowerPoint, and I would say like the owner of the content of that, have you gone down Myrtlewood yourself? Yes. I found that some of your examples were lacking, that it was sort of cherry picking things that, to make things look this way or that way. We were talking about Tudor Revival. There's a lot of Tudor Revival down that street, but you chose not to show that when we were talking about 1501. There's several homes along Myrtlewood that look like that one. The nature of our historic districts, too, is that they're not always sort of cast in amber, if you know what I mean, that the districts show different styles, different variations, even within, say, a Tudor revival or a Gothic revival or whatever. That neighborhood's a very interesting one because we do have structures that were built at different times. So that inconsistency that was being presented in a way as kind of a weakness at Myrtlewood and a justification to remove craftsman bungalows is really what makes that neighborhood special. 1501, for example, and you use this on your slide about that brickwork is special, that herringbone pattern, the shape of the chimney. There's so much there that is really lovely and directly addresses Myrtlewood. Anyway, I'll tell you what, I'll let others ask some questions and I may jump back in, but those are a couple of things I wanted to put out there right away. Oh, the other thing too I wanted to say is that the reference to 1985 is fine, but in 2004, these properties were deemed appropriate. And what's interesting too, Myrtlewood, you've got, the 3 properties under consideration tonight. On the other side of Myrtlewood on Bryant Drive are 3 more properties in the historic district. So it's this beautiful little entryway, this sort of lovely little enclave of a historic district that is bounded by these 6 homes on either side of Myrtlewood on Bryant Drive. So it's not like these guys are floating around in space with no context. They are connected to this larger picture of Myrtlewood Historic District, not Myrtlewood Avenue.
Mr. Hamby, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Cheshire. What do you think your burden of proof is?
I'd love to say preponderance of the evidence, but I agree with him. It's not well defined. There's not a real good procedure for how this is supposed to go, and that's why I fall back on the statutory criteria.
Okay.
One of the things, too, that happens with us, just talking about this, because you're absolutely right, we don't have these, preponderance of the evidence. It's interesting to listen to the lawyers sort of tease this out. When we're looking at our cases, in the past, or depending on what we're doing, there are times when we will say, well, does this set up a precedent for something? But the argument to that is we don't set precedents. We set justifications for allowing something, and by that I mean that every property is really considered on its own and its context and the larger picture with that. So I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see these really sort of stern, specific elements in a lot of what we do, because we do look with the design guidelines at a larger picture, and it really has to do with context as well. Every property has its own little unique characters with that, so it's hard to really translate that to every single property.
I just want to add, too, that there were, besides the uniformity, the fact that one of the houses is near a multifamily, that's over in Caplewood as well. The fact that these houses are in Myrtlewood, but they front a major arterial, I can't say that word. Arterial, thank you. Road, I think Dr. Nelson at the end will talk to you about being on an arterial road. And Audubon, Pinehurst, Allica and Deering are on Queen City. So that's not unusual.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamby, would you agree that the character of the Myrtlewood neighborhood and the historic the historic district has not materially changed since 2004? Not talking about surrounding properties, but the district itself.
Could you ask the question once more, please?
Yeah, would you agree that the Myrtlewood Historic District has not materially changed in its makeup, its structure, its
Just
homes?
the district itself, if you isolate it?
Yes, since 2004.
Yes, I would agree. I wasn't here in 2004. I've been here since 13, but I was around that area a lot as a student. And, there's been additions and painting and stuff like that. But, yeah, as a whole, the district itself, is consistent.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other questions right now for Mr. Hamby? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so let me ask city staff. We've had some submitted public comment, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we received 8 public comments in opposition. For
8?
Yes, 8 public comments in opposition for the removal of these 3 properties, mostly talking about how they're integral to the historic fabric of Myrtlewood, and how they fit into the neighborhood, and how it'd be an error to remove them based on the criteria that the petitioner supplied.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in support of the application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? All right, sir, would you like to come up, please? And would you mind stating your name and your address for the record?
My name is Ed Dolensky. My wife and I live at 1100 Myrtlewood Drive. We've lived there for 9 years. I submitted some comments in advance, so I'm only going to touch on a few of those points and then reiterate some things that I came up with today on my own. As you pointed out, the 3 houses in question here frame a gateway to our neighborhood, with the 1400 block on the other side of Myrtlewood. Now, some of the features of the example house in 1501 were not shown, but there's a curved roof line, and you mentioned the herringbone fireplace. Those same features are on the house across the street, 1419. It has a herringbone fireplace facing the street and a curved roof that matches.
You know what that roof is called? It's called a cat slide roof.
Okay.
Doesn't it? I just love that name, and I wanted to throw it out there.
And the houses 1505 and 1507, 1505 specifically, is very similar to the appearance of 1415. It's the middle house on the other side of Myrtlewood Drive. So taken as a whole, there are similarities with the rest of the neighborhood or other homes in the neighborhood. Now, some of the sample photos, I also included in my comments a Tuscaloosa news article from 1989, because even as recently as 1989, there were 5 empty lots still along Myrtlewood Drive in the back. And those were later sold and built on, and obviously they're not in the English Tudor or cottage style, but they are not, they do not conflict with the other styles. And I have one of the original 1932 houses that's in the back. But we had 3 houses that were built in the 50s. We have 4 houses that were built from 1989, and the last one was built in 2000. So, and I'll go on to my other points. I had written this down this morning, but nothing has fundamentally changed about the neighborhood. Yes, there's construction across the street, but those condos, those cookie-cutter condos, are being built on property that was not in a historical district. So the property owners are free to, make their plans to do with whatever the property they want. That feature is not available in our historic district. These 3 properties combine for about roughly 135 feet of frontage to Bryant Drive. Bryant Row, the development across the street, has 200 feet, and it has 7 condos facing the street. So there's about 2/3 of the capacity in question here that is being asked to be removed from the historical district. There was a phrase in the write-up that the attorney submitted that said the highest and best use for these 3 properties is student housing. And I disagree with that statement, because the trend that I have seen living on the street for 9 years is when there are 5 houses that we're renting to students who no longer rent to students. So that there is a higher quote, best use for these properties, because the trend has been toward, well, the phrase we use is game day houses, where they're second homes for people who come in to visit on game days, but they come in other times, and they have Alabama connections. And I have met many of them, and when they're present, and they come more than just 7 home games, we have a neighborhood fabric. So even though it's not all single ownership or single-family ownership and occupation, there's still a vibe there from our neighborhood. So I think to say this is student housing, that's all it can be, I think there's more potential there, as has been demonstrated on the interior street.
And Mr. Dunsley, let me just tell you quickly, you have a minute left.
And I have a very small backyard. And there are other houses that have very limited parking for maybe 3 vehicles. And the 1400 block houses on Bryant don't have a problem getting out on Bryant and getting in because they're still operating.
Well, we appreciated that you submitted that Tuscaloosa News article. I hadn't seen that before, so that was with your public comment that you submitted.
I was very fortunate, we were very fortunate that the prior owners had left a folder in the kitchen about the creation of the historical district. There was an architectural heritage survey of each home that described its style and when it was built. And, you know, I don't have complete information, but I have a very nice folder. And then the historical district, sorry, I'm nervous, also produced a newsletter of which there were several copies, different dates and copies, and it described the past and the history of the neighborhood and its historical heritage there.
This sounds like a conversation we should have later on about the materials that you have. Sounds really something good for our files. Is there anything else you'd like to add, though? Because we have your written comments, which are extensive and thoughtful.
I fear that for the future of those houses, if they were to be removed, there is not a well-defined process. There's not a well-defined criteria or standards or parameters to remove properties from a historical district, because the next request will come similar, saying, well, pluck this house out of University Circle, and I want to withdraw. And how can you say, I know you mentioned precedent, but on what leg would you stand on to tell that person no if you told this request yes? That's my concern. I'm an engineer by training, so I like to see a process, parameters, measurements, and that's my thought.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Ms. Fitz, did you have your hand up as well? And again, name and address.
Kelly Fitz, 19 Audubon Place. We've seen things come before you before. You know, somebody wants to take something out of the district, and there's usually some historical thing that someone finds that says it was not ever meant to be in the district in the first place. I know that was one of them. This doesn't seem to have that. These were properties that were included in the district very clearly from the beginning. To take them out based on the fact that they aren't currently being used as single-family homes, or the architecture doesn't quite fit on some of them. None of that makes, to me, any difference. If I understand this right, the current owner purchased these properties after they were in the historic district. Is that correct?
No, I think I understand from Mr. Hamby's presentation that they were purchased prior to the 2004 designation, correct? Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so the comment from the audience was that Mr. Bailey has owned those properties since the 1980s.
Okay.
Anything
so
else?
He's owned it, and so they've been in the district since he's owned it.
Yes.
And so, you know, typically when a district is formed, to my understanding, is that, you know, you go to every property owner and you ask them, do they want to be in the district or not? And so at that point, maybe in the 80s, you know, at some points, he probably had to be in the district. So,
right.
And I don't see
what we'd
that-
like to hear is why they should not be removed.
Right.
Because we've got the history here.
Okay,
Anything you'd
so
like to
good.
add to that?
And they should not be removed, basically, essentially from what you said earlier.
Okay.
These are bookends. These are the entrance to Myrtlewood,
Okay.
and they need to remain.
Thank you very much. So as we're sort of in the public comment sphere of the hearing, I did want to just highlight a few items from the submitted comments that I thought were well articulated, and I'd like the commission members to consider this as we look at this removal, which is something we don't see very often. So one neighbor said, and I think this is really lovely phrasing, Myrtlewood is a jewel of a street in the middle of intense development. It has continued to retain its character by keeping true to the historical preservation, they say, restrictions here. The author also adds, it is critical that we retain the special character of these few remaining neighborhoods. Please do not allow these homes to be eliminated. They are vital to the enjoyment of the neighborhood. I think that speaks to a lot of what we've been talking about. And then from another resident of Myrtlewood, which is sort of repeats the same sort of thing. The 3 houses on Paul Bryant Avenue are definitely a part of Myrtlewood Historic District. They all have distinct architecture that adds to the historic character and integrity of the Myrtlewood Historic District. And there are a few other comments along those lines, but I thought those really kind of sort of highlight why we're here in talking about the historic district. It's not about use. It's not about some of these other issues, but it really comes down to the integrity of the historic districts.
I'll add to that, that when a couple of weeks ago, months ago, when we were, as an original city association, objecting to a convenience store on Queen City and Bryant Drive, one of the things we pointed out was that all of these regulations, historic district, HPC, all of these things that we're doing now, they're working, and you can see that in different ways. You can see it in property values. You can see it in real estate sales. You can see it right now on the corner of Queen City and Paul Bear Bryant with that Queen Anne, and as well as the one down on, further down the street at Larry Lou's, what was that, 7th Street? So I think, you know, what we're seeing now is a result of these regulations that were put in place to do exactly what you just mentioned the woman wrote in the letter, which is preserve this character, and it's benefiting the community. So I do think, you know, it's not so much where the house is that drives the value, it's how the house is kept up.
So with this, we've sort of morphed into discussion by commission members. I'm closing the floor to public comment at this point. Commission members, anything else you have to say?
I just think those 3 houses on either side, they serve as a gateway to that whole historic district. I think you lose the character of Myrtlewood if you were to do that.
So
I would just say, I don't believe, Mr. Hamby did a fantastic job presenting the argument for his client, but I don't believe the petitioner has met his burden in establishing a sufficient change in these properties or the historic district to justify removal of these properties from their designation as being a part of the historic district, which was done by the city council in 2004 and confirmed twice in 2005. And since there's been no material change in these properties or the historic district, I don't see how we could recommend that they be removed. And that would be my reason for voting no.
all right, moving along. Standing motion to approve HPC 3226. The Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission will consider a petition for the removal of 1501, 1505, and 1507 Paul W. Bryant Drive from the Myrtlewood Drive Historic District and will make a recommendation to the Tuscaloosa City Council. So a vote yes is that you want to recommend it go to City Council. A vote of no is that you do not recommend it goes to City Council. Ms. Stone?
No.
Mr. Deason?
No.
Dr. Yarbrough?
No.
I vote no. Mr. Diab?
No.
Mr. Shattuck?
No.
Mr. Alabash?
No.
No.
And Dr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Hamby, I know it must be disappointing, especially when you put all that work in. We do really appreciate you coming and presenting things in a coherent way and well-packaged way. I wish you the best, and thank you for coming tonight.
Well, I really appreciate y'all hearing me out. I knew it was an uphill battle. I wasn't shocked.
Thank you, and thank you for those kind words. We're not done yet.
Are we adjourned?
No, sit down. We feel like we're adjourned, but we are not
Yes,
adjourned.
moving along, we've
No.
had 13 approved historic expedited reviews since our last meeting.
And now we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.